But let's look at the bottom half, because literally I saw 20 movies. So there's the top 10 and the worst 20, even though the worst 20 is literally just the worst of the 20 I saw. And I wouldn't call them worst, except for maybe the first one. Number 20 is Fantastic Four. Now, this one, it was a case of, I gotta see how much of a train wreck this is. It's not that much of a train wreck. It's clearly... You can see the origins of the found footage in it, and if they actually went all out with it, I think it might have worked, but it's definitely corporate coming in and taking a movie away from someone. It fails because of that hard. It's dark, it's murky, it's drab, it's bland. There's little emotion. It's trying for hard science and yet not. I mean, it's anything but fantastic in a movie called Fantastic Four. If it was simply called Cosmic Space Team, it would have been better off. Okay? But the problem is it was Fantastic Four. So that's number 20, and an obvious one. It's really the bottom unless I saw some things like Gem, maybe. Because it was a movie. Yeah. Number 19 is Seventh Son. Now that one actually was at the top for quite a while, from the start of January, because nothing else came out. Nothing else happened. Seventh Son I liked a fair bit. I am going to do a GPC of it, so I don't want to talk about it too much. But it is a big, sprawling action-adventure fantasy with a fun cast, some really quite good effects. It does pay some stuff off, but holds some things back when it really shouldn't. But it has a great tone and everything, and I quite enjoyed it. But at the same time, there was nothing unique about it, nothing at all, and that is a kind of a knock against it, in that there was no reason to see it. If you've seen a few of these movies, you've seen this one. It really feels like that, but there's nothing bad either. It doesn't fail at anything. It's just a competent one, and that is what keeps it from rising above. So that's there. It has a direct competition later in the list, so we'll get to that. Number 18 is Hitman Agent 47. Another one I'll do a GPC of, and you're going to hear that a few times through this. Hitman Agent 47 had some awesome action, some crazy all-out stuff. It's one of the better video gamey type things that I can think of as far as stuff like that. But at the same time, had really fallen apart thanks to the guy in the lead. He was decent, but he had no presence at all. And that kind of worked for what they were going for, but it really fell flat because the lead dude wasn't that great at being a lead dude. It was actually going to be Paul Walker originally, and it's kind of a shame that fell through, because I don't know how he would have pulled that off, but he would have at least had a little more of a commanding presence on screen, and it would have been beneficial for that, I think. But the stunts, the action was really good. It was quite well done. The music's fun. It's very true to what it should be, so I can't fault that one, but it just could have been a lot more, honestly. Number 17 is American Ultra. Now, that's not to say that I disliked it. It's just I like 16 movies better. I don't like stoner comedies. Thankfully, this isn't one. I'm not against Jesse Eisenberg. I quite like his stuff when it's in the right situation, and this is. The rest of the cast is actually really good. It's a little movie that overachieved and kind of succeeded at it. It really, I feel, pulls that off. The cast is a lot of fun. Kristen Stewart is great in it too. The concept is awesome of a secret agent who's awoken but is fuzzy because of the drugs. That's a cool concept, but it's executed well. Like I always say for things like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, that's a romantic comedy about assassins. You need to be able to have the assassin world work to be able to buy that and actually make it work. Well, this is the same idea. It's got that level of government stuff happening that works. I feel that it actually works well. So it was a lot of fun, but again, there's more that I liked. Like number 16, The Transporter Refueled. This one is an interesting one, because when you look at it, you're like, how is this not direct-to-DVD? How is this not like a TV movie? Which reminds me, I did also see Dead Rising Watchtower. Not a theatrical, so I didn't really slot it in here, but it would probably be in this range. It would be above, it would be between 13 and 14 when I get there, more than likely, so that'll come. But The Transporter Refueled, if it had Jason Statham in it, it would have been an amazing Transporter 4. Absolutely, bar none. The visuals, the stunt work, the music, the locales, the action, the driving, everything is 100% the transporter that you know and love from the first two, and somewhat third. But they replaced the dude with a new dude who's basically doing a Jason Statham impersonation, and it fails hard for that. If he did his own take on it, okay, but it has issues. So that's the only drawback on that one, but otherwise it was quite a bit of fun, really. It was, I quite enjoyed it. It was a fun one, definitely. Next, though, is Paranormal Activity, The Ghost Dimension, which I'm almost like, why did I put that there? No Katie means boo, because they were promising all the answers and the finality to the activity, but they didn't do it. But overall, I liked what they did. It was really well done. It was an innovative, unique way to put the 3D in and stuff, so that worked quite well, I felt, in that regard. But that's 5 down, 6 down actually. In there would probably be Dead Rising Watchtower, maybe after the next one. Next one is Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. I've said before in the Hyperbole there will be a GPC episode for this, so I don't want to say any more than that. But it is a lot of fun, and is a little movie that's made big. It's another one of those, absolutely. So I can't fault that one whatsoever for that. But Dead Rising Watchtower probably goes in there just as a big amount of fun. It's like a Crackle original movie on streaming services like Netflix. And yet, it's one of the truer to life video game movies ever. It's so well done and well shot with some original stuff, and it's a lot of fun too. We're looking at now number 13, Furious 7. The best way to sum this up is it was made by someone who saw the prior Fast and Furious movies and thought they knew all the beats to include in it. I would be repeating my hyperbole by saying exactly that, but it still holds true. It does hit all the right notes, but for not the right reasons. And it's basically, if the other ones were a 10, it's a 9. Well, they're not 10s, but it's that idea. It's a step behind the 6 and 5, for that matter. It's well worth watching, but there's some really stupid stuff. And you might be like, oh, it's Fast and Furious. No, it's unexplainably stupid stuff is what gets me. Like driving through the towers in Abu Dhabi, I'm fine with that, with this universe. But some of the stuff is beyond, it's just like, no, you didn't establish that, you can't do that. So, that's that. Number 12 is Hyena Road, Canadian-only release, Paul Gross, Canadian Afghanistan war movie. Really, really good. Really good movie. I don't even know if it got an American release, for that matter, but it did quite well here. A couple million, which is quite good for Canada. Canadian movies, more so. And I can't wait to buy it. It's a great one. It's depressing as hell, but it's kind of the idea. I can't say much more about that. If you're interested in that kind of thing, check it out, absolutely. Number 11 is Spectre. Now that's saying something, considering I love Bond movies, but after how they built up and got good, it kind of fell short. Casino Royale was a fantastic reboot to things, introducing Daniel Craig as an awesome Connery-esque Bond, and a great, great start. And then Quantum of Solace, all I can remember is there was a part where he's finding a dude in a desert hotel because water with a fire axe. It's a forgettable movie. And the sniper bit. The sniper bit was cool when he was kind of scanning targets. But that movie was forgettable. But thankfully Skyfall comes along and is masterfully done in its 3 acts. And is like smart and intelligent and doesn't handhold you, but still doesn't leave you hanging, and is beautifully shot with awesome action, great music, and then has a whole 4th act with basically a Home Alone segment, and it's good but not needed. And the villain is a bit much, I felt too. It was a bit too perfect in a lot of ways. This one has all the right tools. It's by Sam Mendes again. It's got the idea of a big bruiser of a villain played by Batista, who was Drax in Guardians, and that alone is good pedigree for someone there, and the phone agrees. Daniel Craig is back, and MI6 is kind of established in this, and Christoph Waltz is the bad guy. And yet somehow they just seem to be going to places for the sake of going to places. They have a horrible opening theme for the Bond song. It doesn't even feel like a Bond song, and it's hard to understand it, and it's a weak one. The one that Nickelback actually, or not Nickelback, that'd be a song. Radiohead They released one because they were working on one. They didn't get chosen for it, but they still made it. It's a better Bond song, but it's still horrible compared to what we're used to. Overall, the movie is very flawed. I still enjoyed watching it, but it kind of makes the other ones worse. It makes the other ones into failed missions by how they try to tie everything together. And not even just all his prior ones that have no connections when you watch them in and of themselves, but then also like his own family ties and stuff. It's too much. Too much. Some of it okay, but it was too much. I didn't like that aspect of it. But, I mean, the girl was great, Lea Seydoux. She held her own more than I thought she would. Daniel Craig looked to be having fun. Batista was great as expected. But Christoph Waltz was a waste. Like, his performance and style and everything in this, like, you think of this guy after seeing Green Hornet and Django Unchained and Inglourious Basterds and think he's a perfect Bond villain. He's playing one in these movies. Then he gets to be in one, and it's some of the worst choices and execution I can recall. The villain from Mission Impossible 5 is forgettable and yet better than this. It was rough. It was underwhelming. So that's why it's so low. It's number 11. But now we're into the top 10. And we have The Last Witch Hunter. I compared it to Seventh Son earlier, but this is where it's at. This is Vin Diesel as a immortal witch hunter in modern times fighting demons. Guilty pleasure. I'm not going to say anything more than that. It's a guilty pleasure. It was some of the most fun I've had watching a movie, even though, yeah, there's 9 higher. It is the sum of its parts are a bit less, but overall, just enjoyment-wise, oh, that was fun. It was a fun one. Number 9 is The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which I should have here, which should give you some indication of how much I liked it. I actually got a bunch of big movies at Christmas and around Christmas. So let's see here. That's for the one I'm shooting next. There we go. The Man from U.N.C.L.E. This one is a Guy Ritchie movie, and if you like Sherlock Holmes or Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels, Snatch, that kind of stuff, you kind of know what you're getting into. Even though he did nothing similar to his other movies, it still felt like a Guy Ritchie movie. I don't care for the 60s thematic, but it worked here so good. He captured what is cool about it. Henry Cavill's American accent was fantastic. Everybody was awesome in it, and it was a smart one that didn't hold your hand, but did leave you hanging. And the second Sherlock Holmes movie suffered from that too. The first one had parts where stuff's going on, stuff's happening, and then they reveal back that all the stuff that you just kind of dismissed was actually things. The second one didn't. Like, there's one bit when Holmes knows how he knows where a guy's from because he remembered the smell of the tobacco that got blown in his face. Now, the scene literally is Holmes walking up and the guy going, pfft. He's like, oh. And that's it. But he's like, oh, I know what that is. That's a smell of a rare one that was acquired here that soldiers in this area would have had. Okay, that makes sense, but we had no way to connect into that. There's no hint or clue that we should be looking for that. And that's a bit of a fundamental thing. And that's what this movie did. This movie did a bunch of things like that, where stuff that we're involved with and following, but we're not privy to. And yet when they reveal it back in the scene saying, here's how I know, why weren't we privy to it? Because it was literally happening and the camera cut away to something else in the same scene. You know? At the same time, though, hell of a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that movie. It's an easy one to recommend. But absolutely. The next one is also in my pile of movies here. I thought I got this one, didn't I? Sure, yeah, there it is. Didn't get this for Christmas, got it right afterwards. Mission Impossible, Rogue Nation. This one is a Mission Impossible movie. First movie was great, second one I hate. Third one was a lot of fun and brought things back. Fourth one continued that one, and this one really felt like another. Some of the action scenes, like the bike chase, is incredible. The overall plot is a bit over everything, like the underwater bank of computer data. Who builds these things? And yet, you got to make something crazy for him to go do, right? So there is that. Everything really came out well in that movie, I thought. It was well executed, well done. And it was tense. Like, these guys were a little out of their league, but their capabilities would keep them on par. So it worked really well for that, and I like that one quite a bit in that sense too. Jurassic World is in the other room. That one is number 9. It's number 7 rather, excuse me. And you'd be like, oh, it's only number 7. It was good, but I've never said Jurassic World or Jurassic Park is one of my favorites. Same with even Lost World. It's good, and I enjoyed the heck out of it, but don't know how many times I can rewatch it, which I say as I own it, but you know what I mean. It's quite good. It's very good, and it is rewatchable, which I'm glad to have it. But I like the other ones coming up better, and the next one you're probably going to be like, really? Really? You've probably got an idea of what the next 6 are going to be, but it's what order are they in? Well, I'll tell you right now, number 6 is Terminator Genisys. And you're all probably going, oh, why? I know. Terminator Genisys is fun like 3 was. So there. Terminator 3 I did my 2nd anniversary with as a GPC episode. Terminator Genisys returns to that kind of big open fun of a Terminator movie. Now you might be thinking, Terminator shouldn't be fun. Yeah, it should. It's an absurd concept which can play with that and have fun with that. A lot of people love Salvation. I thought it was dark and dreary, and it was building up well to a 5th, but we never quite got it in that way. Genisys, outside of that whole Genesis idea being stupid and ignoring 3 and 4, which excuse me, which I dislike, was fun. Arnold was awesome in it. The action was fantastic. I hate the guy they got for John Connor. I just don't like his look as a guy. Like his face looks weird and he doesn't look intimidating at all. So I don't like the fact that he's supposed to be that. It didn't work. Overall, though, I came out of the movie just smiling, and you really can't say much more than that. I liked it. Was it flawed? Absolutely. Aren't they all? Yeah. So there you go. That's that one. Next up, number 5, Star Wars The Force Unleashed. And I don't have the DVD, but I do have the glasses still here. Now, the ones above that, I'm even almost considering swapping it and number 4. Number 4 is Avengers Age of Ultron. I'm of 2 minds of that, because the more I think about Avengers, this was number 2 until I sat down to really do this. This one's fallen quite a bit. I enjoyed the heck out of Avengers. And I'm getting beeps from my phone. I enjoyed Avengers quite a bit, and I can rewatch it, and I loved it. And yet, there's flaws in it. And Star Wars might feel too fresh and too new. I don't want to put it super high, because, hey, but I cannot think of a thing I disliked about Star Wars except for the very end, and that's not back to the whole aspect where I kind of lost track of things and didn't get to see the ending quite fully because I had to go to the bathroom. It's not that. It's just I would have rathered the whole up. Everyone knows they're making more. I would have rather that last bit been cut entirely and put into over there. That's my opinion. It would have worked better that way. And yet, it alone is great and fantastic, so I can't really say anything more than that without spoiling, because I still intend to not spoil anything in Star Wars. But is it only number 5, or should it be above Avengers? Well, Avengers Age of Ultron is my number 4, and is, still got plastic on it, is infinitely more watchable than 1. Rewatchable, that is, because it just starts and goes, because the first one has to assemble the team. This one doesn't have to assemble it, it just goes out. And yet, the stuff that's in 1 is a bit better in like the battles and things like that, or the fight with Thor and Hulk. Whereas this one, I mean, it's funnier with Ultron, which you wouldn't think, but it is. It works amazingly well, and I can't say enough good things about it. And yet I'm like, is it really that high and that good? I actually swapped it and my number 2 after rethinking things for a bit. So I've done some tweaking of the numbers and the positioning just for the sake of things in there. Now I should give an honorable mention before we get to the top 3. I saw Fury, I'm pretty sure, this in 2015, and I love that movie, so I'll just mention that one here while I'm at it. So that one's there too. Number 3, though, is one that I thought I had in here. I do have it in here, so give me just a moment to get that out here. Number 3 is Kingsman: The Secret Service. I love the crap out of this movie. This movie was some of the most fun I've ever had in a movie. I went in thinking, that looks good. Coming out going, that was amazing. This movie is one of the funniest, balls-out, actioniest ones I've ever seen. I want to GPC it, and I probably still will. Anyway, it's by Matthew Vaughn, who at this point I will watch anything he does. He did X-Men First Class, he did Kick-Ass, he is top-notch for this kind of stuff. And the cast is mind-blowing. The scale and scope of this is fantastic. I cannot say enough good things about this movie, but I did knock it down to number 2, because there are 2 movies ahead of it on my list. What are they? Well, I just put one back by accident. That was stupid of me. Let me reach over here and grab it so I can put it back. Number 2 of my movies of 2015 is Ant-Man. You probably know what number 1 is now. But Ant-Man, this was one that a lot of people were worried about. And, like, is it going to be great? Is it going to underperform? Is it going to be funny? What's it going to be? Like, the main director who'd been working on it for, like, 8 years left shortly into production, and then they had to replace him. And yet, it retains its tone. It feels like one of his, and feels like a Marvel, and everything comes together. I keep saying it, but I can't say enough good things about it. It was funny. It was great for people who hadn't seen Marvel stuff and not familiar with all the stuff. It works on its own. That's the beauty of the Marvel movies. They work on their own, and yet come together and work great too. So, Ant-Man alone, I have it above Avengers. I have it above Terminator. I have it above Jurassic World. I have it above Kingsman. I have it above Star Wars. It's about as great as an origin movie as these things get nowadays. I can't say enough good things about it, but there's nothing much more to say about it. Ant-Man is a fantastic, hilarious heist comic book movie. And if you've not seen it, absolutely see it. But what does that mean number 1 is? Well, I almost kind of regret not flipping Ant-Man in this one, because I don't know. Ant-Man is just kind of all the other perfect. Kind of like Red was. I said Red was my favorite movie a couple years ago. And it's kind of similar to that. But number 1 that I've got, because nothing ever kind of bumped it, was Mad Max, Fury Road. Big surprise, I know, right? I hadn't mentioned it. Where is it going to place? It's Mad Max. DVDs, the Blu-rays in the other room. Mad Max was everything I wanted out of a Road Warrior continuation, to the 19th degree, and went beyond that. The visuals, the action, the music, the spectacle, the cast, the performances, the feel, the world, it's amazing. And it was pulled off perfectly. Now, my one real complaint about it is, actually after talking with friends and stuff, kind of analyzing it, it's like, how can the world really go that crazy that quick? Because Max remembers when things were good. And some of these older guys were around when these things were normal. My opinion of it is, like, they're out in the wasteland. Most people would go to the cities. These people are out in the wastelands. And they've simply gone mad. That's the idea. Mad Max. So they're just nuts and don't think of things or know any better. And they're not sane in the first place, so they embrace the crazy. But it's always a weird thing. Like, it's too soon to really go down the road of people not knowing what stuff was like. But that's secondary, considering the things are just outright nuts. So there you go. But that movie is, and this isn't just simply following the hype train. Its action is unbelievable, and its visuals are fantastic. And yeah, it's Furiosa's movie more than it is Max's, but that's kind of been his way. He's the kind of the catalyst that makes things happen, somewhat. And that is my top movie of the year. It kind of should have been Ant-Man, but it's number 1. Nothing really. Well, after I saw Ant-Man a couple months after Mad Max, I didn't think it was better then. So there you go. But that's the top 20, because that's all I saw. But as I see them, I can absolutely agree that I'll probably put in Creed in there, and Krampus, and Victor Frankenstein, Mockingjay, Gem, whatever, right? Hateful Eight, Revenant. That'll happen as I see those ones finally. But until I do, that's the top 20. That's the movies of 2015. Thank you for joining me on this year-end special. It does kind of replace the GPC in the calendar, which helps considering it got delayed from Christmas and I'm still finishing that one off. But that is it, and we have a few more episodes to go until GPC 100, so I hope you come back for that, and you enjoy all of that. Have a happy new year. See you next year, which is tomorrow. And then